Hello everyone, here's an update on oil. Normally I clear my chart so I can show you guys how I analyze charts. Well, if you want to see that, check out one of my other videos. In this video, I have left everything I have put on my charts previously. I left it on my charts, and that is for a reason. If you check out the previous video about oil, which is I think 1.5 week ago. I did a video about this spike, and this was a news-driven spike. I got a lot of questions about oil, so I decided to do a video on it. And what I told you guys in that video is that this is, of course, a huge move, and this was driven by an attack on the oil fields in Saudi Arabia, and everybody got involved. America started blaming Iran, and a lot of things happened in a short period of time. So we saw this spike, we saw this rejection in price, so we saw this drop again, and price continues to drop. Things are smoothing out. It's not like we are getting into a war tomorrow or anything, and oil production is set to be back on track as soon as possible. So this is exactly what it is with news. So if you see someone say he or she predicted this move or anything like that, that's ridiculous. It's impossible. And from a technical perspective, this is something I want to point out, that I stay away from these kinds of trades or opportunities. Why? Because this again is a news-driven thing. We don't know at the time this is all happening if there is maybe another attack, or maybe more aggressive talk from certain countries that a war is in fact coming, or oil production is at risk of resuming, or whatever. We don't know. It starts to become a gamble, and that is something you want to avoid in trading. I saw sometimes I've read somewhere that trading is sometimes a gamble, but you are the casino, and in this case you don't have all the cards in hand, so you're not definitely not the casino. So you're the player, and the player in the casino eventually most of them they lose. So coming back to this, I pointed out in the previous video, again check it out, I put a description down below. I point out that well, this was a huge news-driven move. We saw some correction, and at the time, I think when I zoomed to the 4-hour chart, at the time I did the video, I made this box that price was came back into this previous resistance, now turning support area, and I was, I was waiting to wait it out to determine if this would break previous highs and start trending even more to the upside, or that it would break out to the downside. Well, what can we learn from that? Let me get this one off for now so I can use this. Well, that scenario played out for quite some time. So that means that price consolidated for this period. Neither to the upside, neither to the downside anything happened. We have a couple of spikes, so depending on what time frame you're trading, maybe you took a short at the top and got stopped out, or you maybe, you never know what kind of strategy you use, but this was consolidation, and now finally we have this breakout to the downside, which means that we are in fact moving further to the downside, probably. I don't know if I can get I get it back. Yes, that's good. So this was the risk reward. This was the trading opportunity I pointed out. This is kind of this was the previous high. The previous lows are down here. You can draw also draw a trend line from here to here. I think price will react once it touches that trend line, by judging by the charts we are looking at now. So I said back then, I'm not really interested to take a trade within this area, just because to me it's like you're in the middle of a of a range, or something like that. And if it would break out, you could have taken a trade. Now it breaks down. You could be in a short for now on, but the distance to the first trend line, or the distance to the first real support area, also here's a trend line coming. The distance is too, it's it's too short for me. We're talking about a let's say you entered around here, so let's say 57 and a half, and then you should be taking your profits at 55 and a half. Or, depending on your lot size and your trading strategy, everything is possible, of course. But to me, that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the big swings, the big moves. That's more what I'd be looking for. So coming back to this chart, I would be looking at a setup that would look kind of like this. This is a support, so as long as this support doesn't get broken, I could be interested in entering this market. Of course, this around this trend line, there's also reason to be you know cautious, or to be notified that price could turn around there. So it's kind of like this when you look at the setup. Let me get this off and turn it in a little bit. So this is still, of course, a great risk-reward ratio. It takes time, I know. Like I said, previous video was a week and a half ago. So a week and a half, this to me is not tradable. I don't prefer to get into this position. And right now, I want to see this pullback even further. And by the time it does pull back even further, of course, by then we can zoom in to the charts. And right now, oh, just switch that one. Right now we are seeing the price is in fact making lower lows, also on the lower time frame. So for now, this is the first support area, and then we have this area over here where we can get the same reaction. So I really need to for some of those levels to be broken, and I prefer to break and retest and then continue. That's the kind of pattern I would be looking for. But for now, market is making lower lows, and when we look at the bigger time frame, we know that there is still room to the downside. So preferably, maybe the best setup, if this continues to move on a little bit and it meets this trend line in combination with that this support and trend line match up, so we got some kind of confluence on this one, then this could be a trade. This could be a trade. So I thought it was interesting to get the same charts on the screen for this video, and to show you what my thought process and idea was when I did the first video. I'll try to do some update videos on certain trades as well. So in this case, to me, there is still no opportunity in the market, but I can also try to do some videos about, for example, New Zealand Canadian dollar I'm looking at right now. If I decide to enter that trade, I will be happy to share the fact that I entered it and why, and of course give you an update from time to time, maybe on a weekly basis around the middle of the week like this. So it's a little bit extra from my weekly analysis. So yeah, I think that could be interesting to see how I manage my trade. So for example, if I got into a trade like this, and I go to my charts from time to time, and I see what happened in the time I wasn't there, and I see that new support areas have formed. It's interesting, I think, to share the fact that these things are quite clear when you see how price behaves. So this could be interesting to share. That if I enter a certain trade, it's interesting for my viewers to see how and why, and then it can be hard to let winners run. It sounds kind of crazy because we're scared that we lose money, but sometimes we're also scared to lose a potential profit that is running already. So this is I think it's good for me to share that thought process as well. So for now, to sum it up, this is kind of a update or a second part of the previous video. I'll put a link down below, and for now I really need to see how this price drop is behaving when it touches this first trend line, this support, and by the time it's not going in a straight line. So by the time we are at that point, probably this trend line comes into play as well. So let's see what happens and how price behaves to get ourselves a clear view of how to take a interesting trade with a great risk reward and a huge profit potential. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like my content, please like, please subscribe, share, comment. I appreciate it. And also down in the description there is another way to support my effort on YouTube and sharing my knowledge of trading with the world for free. Also, I provide a book that is also for free for the same reason. So check out the description and see you in the next one.